Hi everyone, this is Erkan Suçular. Can you hear me? Is the voice and the visuals are okay? Can someone confirm please? Okay, that's great. Hi Ed, thank you very much for joining. Wonderful. Thank you very much for taking your time to join me on this nice Sunday. At least it's a great weather on Sunday. Actually, my family is now enjoying the day next to a sea. But yeah, I'm very happy to be with you guys and ladies, because this is to be honest, this is my first webinar on a Sunday. I usually do my webinars towards the end of the week, either Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. But this time I explicitly decided to do it on Sunday, because my thinking was, okay, if I do this on Sunday, probably the ones who are really most committed to learn would join such a session on Sunday. And I'm really confident that this will be quite a fun session today. I also had the liability to print out all the questions you shared with me. Not everyone who basically registered the session post a question on the registration form, but I already got about, I think about 25, 30 questions. And we'll be also covering this during the session as well. Let me say hello to you, ladies and gentlemen. So we have Akindia, Samuel, Reka, Nicoletta, Taupelo, Deborah, Siva, Krishna, Mohammed, Anesriti, and Okuremi, Irena, Govardhan, Ed, Swara, I hope, and a number of other colleagues who are joining in the last few minutes. That's perfect. So we are going to get started in 2 minutes. So while we are waiting, also the rest of the audience, would you mind telling me from what part of the world are you joining today, and what time is it in your location at the moment? Malaysia, 7 p.m. Okay. India, 4:30. Morocco, 12 p.m. Okay, wonderful. Brazil, 8 a.m. It must be quite early. London, 11:30. Germany, 1 p.m. Our neighbor, Portugal, 12 p.m. Romania, 2 p.m. Okay, wonderful. Oh, Reka, 7 a.m. Sorry, Reka. You must have stood up quite early today. I am sorry. Next session will be somehow like in our afternoon in Europe, so you can join at least after breakfast. Sorry for this time. And we have Irena from Philippines, 7 p.m. Wonderful. And Devola, Lagos, midday, 12 p.m. Wonderful. Okay. So I'm in a town called Wollerau, where we are headquartered in Switzerland, and here it is 1 p.m. in 1 minute. And as I said, it's amazing weather. I hope you have not so good weather as we have here in Switzerland today. Good. Okay, let's slowly get started. It's 1 p.m. In the moment. I want to be fair who took the time to join on time. So first of all, thank you very much for joining this session. It really means a lot to me, because at the moment we are living in a world where no one has few minutes for other people, but right now you basically took your time on a Sunday, probably on your off day to join this session, and this really means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. I think we covered this slide. You told me from what country you are joining from today. Wonderful. So I'm really happy in such sessions, because we are joining, from different corners around the world, different perspectives, different cultures and point of views. I think make such sessions even more richer. I'm really glad for this. So today my goal is, I have today is it's not a training session, it's a question and answer session, but I will also have some content, because, some questions, you ask during your registrations have some, common points that deserves, some slides to explain them. Therefore, for that, piece, I'm going to spend like probably, 15, 20 minutes, and I'm going to also, answer questions as we go. I think, most of the times, while we progress, I believe I'm going to cover, most of your questions you want to ask, but still, towards the end of the presentation, if you will have any questions, or if there are any, unclear points among the, content that I'm going to present, just feel free to ask me. And afterwards, as I said, I'm going to also, walk through on your questions. I'm not sure if you can see it. Yeah, I think you can see it now. So I'm going to also walk through on your questions, and I'm going to answer each and all of them. And then we will be an offer session. In this offer, I'm going to also explain you how you can also get started with our certification programs, as affordable and as quickly as this possible. And also, for the ones who decide to join our, certification programs, we are going to also offer a number of bonuses, and I'm going to also cover them later towards the end of the session. It will be for sure, worth your time that you are going to spend today. So I really also recommend you to, to kind of, a little bit, shut down the distractions around you, your phone, your social media, whatever, disturbs you all the time. It's anyway on a Sunday. I'm sure, you are not as busy as the other days. This is also, I think, a good part of doing such sessions, on Sunday. And I really don't want you to miss something important, and therefore, try to stay committed and focused during the end of the session, and try to give us your complete attention. So, as you can see, I have a content in mind. I have a, flow prepared in mind, but my sessions are not usually, stone, grain. For me, what matters is not, to follow my own agenda, but what matters for me is, to be as helpful as possible in such sessions. And therefore, would you mind telling me, after this live class, what would be a big win for you? I don't, ask you necessarily to write a whole bunch of sentence of paragraph about your requirement, but in a few words, in a few keywords, what do you expect to get from this session today? Would you mind sharing with me? I also have my coffee supply. I may get one more in between. Hi, Carlos. Thank you very much for joining. Wonderful. Live industry examples. That's great. We also have some questions about this, Anusriti. And yeah, I will be happily give you some more live industry examples. That's a great point. And what else? What would be a big win for you? In the meanwhile, we have Joseph joined us, and Emeka, Carlos, and Sriti. Wonderful. Marlin wants to understand a better understanding about the difference between Scrum, Agile, project management. That's perfect. Marlin, it's anyway, usually the best way to explain Agile is, how it differentiates from the traditional mainstream project management frameworks. And I'm going to cover this as well. That's perfect. And Sherry is confused with assigning story points to particular user stories. Okay, that's perfect. That's also a nice question. It's not in my list, but I will cover this, Sherry. If I forget at some point to cover this question, please remind me. I will make sure I will answer you. An expert point of view on implementing Scrum systems. Yes, this is also covered. Enhancing my career from developer to a Scrum Master. Mohammed's questions. That's perfect. I have a number of slides, Mohammed, how you can, establish yourself as a credible, expert. I don't want to say expert because expert is a quite, overloaded word. But I'm going to give you some tips how you can make this transition in your career. And the difference between Scrum and DevOps. This is a very, this question doesn't have a short answer, Alex. We also have some similar questions. I'm going to also answer this question, but I'm going to, Alex, also give you some, resources. I will give you some links to some of our articles where we basically explain, huge, details about the difference between Scrum and DevOps, and this content will help you a lot. So we are going to cover this as well. And also hopefully gain a basic understanding of Scrum, start making a plan towards getting a certification, and start applying Scrum principles in my company. That's perfect, Jose. So today we are going to give you this overview and difference between Scrum certifications, Scrum Master, Scrum Master, product owner, etc. I think this is what you mean, I hope. Okay, I will also, I may probably forget this question, I hope, because it's also not in my list. But if you remind me, I will also give you an outline about, how each certification or how each role in a Scrum team differentiates from the rest. And Okuremi is asking Agile Scrum, Agile coaching, and how they link to each other. That's perfect. It's in the question list already. Oluremi, great question. And Tapelo wants to have an understanding about Scrum Master, mostly in the financial industry. That's perfect. This will be covered as well. And Deborah, the big take for me is to understand to get the first role as a Scrum Master. That's perfect. This is a good question, Deborah. Actually, not only you, maybe you as well, but some other participants as well, asked this question during the registration. And the question have the same, the line which says, hey, I'm learning, Scrum from your content. I feel good about it, but I don't have any experience. And most of the jobs asking, job experience before they give me their Scrum Master job. And what should I do to get this job? And I'm going to have a detailed answer about this question, Deborah, how you can, establish yourself as a Scrum expert, and also how you keep on, developing in a way that no one else in the industry do. Then you will have chances to quickly differentiate yourself. That's a great point we are going to cover, Deborah, in this session. And Krishna is asking difference between Agile and traditional methods. We are going to cover this as well. And KD from Canada is interested about PO programs. If you remind me, KD, about more details about product owner programs, I'm going to also cover this. And Ganesh from India, my question is, if a Scrum is not applied in any industry, then what will happen? Okay, I'm going to also, the answer will be clear for you, but we will cover this as well, Vijay. A better understanding on the various Scrum certifications. Okay, I think this I didn't cover, to be honest, because this session is not about only certification programs. I don't have slides to give detailed outline about certification programs, but as I see some people are asking the same question, towards the end of the session, when we talk about certification programs, I'm going to also give you an outline about different Scrum roles and what the certifications mean. Okay. Joa has an interesting question. I would like to address how to apply Scrum methodologies in large-scale implementations like ERPs. Okay, that's a great question. Joao, this is the expertise of scaled Scrum experts, and scaled Scrum experts basically run projects in distributed, agile environments, even if their teams are, in geographically, distributed locations. And our training material will cover this as well, but I will also give you some tips in what, domains you should be, careful to accomplish this goal, Java. And how to measure implementation of Scrum in non-IT industry, wonder there is world best standard or any level measurement. The differences are not really measured, Ricky. You can basically, Scrum is anyway, an industry agnostic process. It's not only limited to IT or software, and you can basically in principle do the same methodologies in IT, also in other industries as well. But I'm going to give you some other examples because I've been asked examples about, HRM, human resource management in finance and etc. And your question will be clearly answered. So someone is complaining, I skipped this question. There is one more point, how to decide where to implement Scrum and where to use Kanban. Okay, we will also cover this. Both of them are agile frameworks, Sherry, both Scrum and Kanban. Kanban, you can see it as a more, lightweight project management framework. It doesn't have, many, rituals like Scrum do. You don't necessarily need to do a detailed planning session. You don't need to do a detailed, review session. Kanban is more like, task management and repository system where you basically keep an eye on the activities and you create also transparency in the organization, not only you as team, but also the other participants and stakeholders in the project can basically monitor, what you are doing in your project and how the things are going. This is the main difference when you do the things. And Scrum is, by the way, one of the, derivatives of the Scrum framework is basically Kanban, okay? Kanban is far more older process than Scrum. Kanban, the first Kanban is used in the supermarkets in 1940s, 1950s, in the Second World War to basically, keep enough, storage in the supermarket shelves, and then the system basically implemented slowly to the basic information work, and then this basically this pipeline that you see in a Kanban board, which is basically to be done ongoing, finished and delivered, etc. All this columns basically tells you your different stages in your storage, and all these mechanisms such as the product backlog or sprint backlog, etc., is basically derived from the Kanban board that you are using in any Kanban project. So basically these are not necessarily competing processes. Okay, I'm going to also later tell you all these processes such as Kanban or Scrum or DevOps, these are not replacing one to each other. They are quite merged into each other. And what we need to do as professionals, as paid professionals, what we're supposed to do is to take the best practices from each of them and then apply them appropriately whenever and wherever it makes some sense in our own organization. This is what we need to decide as paid professional. There is no one size fits all answer in this sort of circumstances. Okay, so now we haven't skipped your question, Sherry. So Swara, I'm a Scrum Master in IT company. We developed a program for product. I want to know Scrum implement outside IT field. Okay, congratulations for implementing Scrum, Swara. Yes, this is a great question. I'm going to also give some examples how this is implemented in other industries. But Kanban boards complement Scrum. Yes, Alex, that's perfectly. Kanban boards complement Scrum. In fact, as I said, the product backlog and sprint backlog concepts, inherited from the Kanban framework. And Sherry, can I consider that Kanban can be used for a smaller project? Yes, correct, Sherry. This is what you can do. For instance, for my own personal projects that I do, especially for my personal projects, I always use a Kanban project. I have a Trello board on my own. I define an epic when I have an idea to implement for something, and then I basically create different tasks and I follow them up. This kind. I used to use checklists. But now I think Kanban boards help me better to have a proper overview, because if you have a checklist and if your project or thing gets longer, then you have tons of checklists. This becomes complex for manage. But Kanban boards can help you to accomplish this. And Anusriti is asking, can we use Scrum in finance, accounting, or what type of industries use Scrum? The answer is, Scrum is industry agnostic. Anusriti, it's industry independent. Okay. You can use as long as you can create epics, user stories, and tasks, okay, for any kind of goal that you want to accomplish, you can use Scrum framework. It's totally industry agnostic. Epic, user story, and tasks. And Sherry is asking, thanks for the clarification. Basically, I'm QA and wanna move into Scrum Master. That's perfect. I also have done quite a lot of quality assurance early in my career. And I kind of also tell you that, also in my career, I observed that, many quality assurance professionals make great, project managers and facilitators in Agile, project environments. And therefore, your profile will perfectly complement your goals, Sherry. That's great to hear. Okay. This is it's a great audience, actually, for a Sunday. Perfect. Very nice questions. I tried to cover as much as I can when I read the questions, but the next part of the session will also deep dive all of them. Now I want to basically give a message here with this question that you see on the screen, because especially if you are not starting in your career, I mean, if you're a team lead, or if you're a manager, or if you're a director, or if you're a vice president or whatever, you may be thinking that, okay, Scrum sounds good, but we have difficulties to accomplish our business objectives by using Scrum framework. Because Scrum is successful, we know from many industries, from many clients of ours, but we also read and hear that many organizations, especially the biggish corporations, struggle when they use the Scrum framework. Now I want to basically ask you again. I don't expect you to write a huge sentence about this, but tell me if your Scrum projects are successful, or how are they going? Tell me your point of view. You can say great, they are going great, or you can say we keep on learning, or we are struggling. How are they going? Do you see Scrum a good framework to accomplish your objectives, or are there struggles? Briefly, outline me with a few keywords. How are things going in your organizations? Were your Scrum projects successful so far? What is your opinion about this? So Nicoletta inputted, we are at the beginning, so we really struggle understanding the roles and writing user stories. Okay. Roles I'm going to cover. User stories can be really tricky, Nicoletta, when you start. It's totally understandable in your project. Especially the estimation. I think someone else has also asked about the estimations. I will also try to give you some outline about this. And Mohammed was saying his daily Scrum sessions exceeded 15 minutes, and this was affecting productivity during the day. This clearly shows that there are some issues. How your Scrum Master uses the Scrum in the organization, because Mohammed, if the daily Scrum takes longer than 15 minutes, this is something that the Scrum Master needs to address and show people how you guys supposed to do daily Scrums. Gowardan was successful. I hope he's student engineer, but he's starting. We just started to implement Scrum in our company. Great. KD has given an input. In some projects it went well, and in some other ones we had issues with the POs and BAs finalizing requirements or changing scope during sprints. Interesting. This also happens. I think the best thing is if the MFE was reached to start with. Most for me is how done was defined at the start, but we struggle mostly with client because they mostly expect more outside the grid, so the issue will be signing off. This sounds like a consultancy industry challenge, Apollo. Are you working in a consultancy industry for clients? Because this usually happens when you work with external clients. And we are starting with Scrum implementation. Okay. As per my experience, Scrum made life much better, but again, story point is one thing which create issues. From that, it increases team bonding. Okay. Story point is up. Something that I need to cover, looking on how to integrate Scrum with continuous integration, continuous delivery platforms. Okay. Joe, I'm recently certified as Scrum Master. I work with SAP implementation, as implementation consultation client manager, usually in a waterfall framework. I believe Scrum would be an improvement, and I'm strongly to present a case study. I'm struggling to present a case study to prove so. Working well, so new to traditional to agile, step by step. Stvora's feedback. Congratulations that you achieved this. Okay. So now I want to tell you something, okay? Because we need to, first of all, I kind of feel that, we are, mostly struggling, to create the belief, okay? Because especially for engineers or for delivery people like us, okay, we like Scrum because it creates an overview, right? It creates an overview of how the things are going to be built step by step, and this doesn't force us to see 10 steps forward like we used to do with waterfall. Because we learn while we are doing our work, and then we step by step put the next stone, and then we step on it, and then we observe around us, and then put the next stone, and then we step on it, and then we go forward. Because of these reasons, we like Scrum framework. But when we explain this to our managers or to our leaders or to our directors or even to our peers, they don't feel as excited as us because they don't see the things, the way we see them. And to be able to, and then they start telling us, hey, you are telling good things about Scrum, but I know from that company, they started using Scrum for 3 years and they have always failed. They couldn't, succeed with their mission to basically, penetrate the Scrum framework in their organization. Now, in such situations, the next slide, will help you, how you basically start, creating this belief, among your peers. First of all, especially this slide is also important for the ones who are asking me, if Scrum is better or if the DevOps is better, if Scrum is better or if the Kanban is better, or if the Kanban is better or the DevOps is better, okay? We first of all, as paid professionals, we don't compare the tools to basically judge them, okay? We don't compare them to say, hey, this is good and this is bad, okay? We compare the tools to get best out of them. Because I've seen many times one can mix the success or failure of projects with the quality of the tools and processes. The quality of the tools doesn't necessarily make or fail your projects, because there are many examples a project can deliver great results because of the fantastic tools and processes. On the other hand, a project can deliver great results, okay, despite the suboptimal and or unfit tools and processes. Similarly, a project can deliver poor results because of suboptimal and unfit tools and processes. And yet, there are also many, many examples. This also happens in the consultancy industry. Every day, a project can deliver poor results despite the fantastic tools and processes. Therefore, the success or failure of your project is not necessarily one-to-one, correlated with the tools and processes you use them, but it's usually correlated how you use these tools, because you can, as you see here in the statements, you can be successful despite you have the bad tools and processes, but you can basically fail even though you have the good ones. Therefore, they are not one-to-one correlated. And therefore, as a trained and paid professionals, we have to compare tools and processes to understand them better, to get the best out of them, not to judge them, because we are not allowed to be fanatics of one tool, okay? As soon as, or the moment we do this, then we keep on, being the same person, being the same, preserving the same understanding all the time. But what we're supposed to do is we have to be, students, we have to be students of our journey. We have to be students of what we're supposed to, deliver in our organizations. And therefore, the next slide is quite important. Do not develop an attachment to any single weapon or any school of fighting. This is basically a samurai, saying from Japan, but it basically one-to-one, can be translated in the IT industry as well. Do not develop an attachment to any single, tool, to any single process, to any single system, and do not develop an attachment to any single resource or school you learn these concepts. As I said, what we're supposed to be is the students of our, cause. We have to, absorb information. We need to test. We need to, experiment, and we need to basically get the best out of them. This is basically, this point of view is basically something that you need to, demonstrate in your organization. And the way to do is basically, keep on learning, not to restricting yourself to one single process. This is basically one of my answers, the ones who are basically, quite, curious to understand the comparison between, elements, comparing them doesn't help you, okay? But you need to understand them, in what circumstances one works, better than other, how we can, get, one piece from DevOps, one piece from continuous integration movement, one piece from the Agile movement, one piece from the, extreme programming, one piece from the Scrum framework. There is a huge discussion is going on. Hey, am I allowed to, break this rule of the Scrum framework? Hey, then someone says, hey, if you do this, then you are not doing Scrum, then you are doing something else. Guys, come on. We are basically, being hired to deliver, work for our organization. We are not basically, defenders of DevOps or Scrum or any framework. We basically get the best, out of them, and then we basically adopt them in our projects and then try to deliver the business results. This is what we are paid for, right? And therefore, it's quite important to basically not to develop any attachment and to also, preserve the flexible, mindset, because we keep on saying inspect and adapt, okay? We keep on inspect and adapt, and then when it comes to, the processes itself, no one is trying to, inspect and adapt them. Everyone says, hey, this is my process. This is my process chart. This is how I'm supposed to work. And then everything else is out of question. This is not the correct way of delivering the great work, okay? The correct way of delivering the great work is basically to get the best from each and every one of these tools and then adapt them to your own, ecosystem, to own, social ecosystem, political ecosystem, to all, management and leadership ecosystem, and then step by step, penetrate them into your system. This is the correct way of going with this projects. But again, don't take my word for it, okay? Every organization has a different, point of view. Every organization has a different, idea about processes, and also has a different way of resistance of all these ideas you bring for them. Therefore, there is no one-size-fits-all answer. No one can basically tell you, including myself, this is what you're supposed to do. I can only guarantee one thing that you're supposed to do, which is, keep on learning, inspecting and adapting, and never take any single, hypothesis as the truth. You need to take this hypothesis from different processes and then experiment them, and then you can see if they work or not. So some of you also has asked me also during the questions, and therefore I also decided to cover, some basically problems that we used to have without, Scrum framework, or before we start using the Scrum framework, because one of the best ways also that you can convince your manager and boss or your, peer group about the penetration of a different, Agile or Scrum framework or Kanban or DevOps, whatever you want to bring to your organization. You need to first of all, create the problems. You need to first of all, make the problems visible, make the pain visible, and after you make the pain visible, they will be automatically looking for the solution. And here are, some of the problems that I basically, observed first time in 2002 while I was, writing my graduation thesis. My idea was basically at that time, I was a very, fanatic, Windows programmer. Okay, I used to, program in Win32 API plus, C++, Microsoft Foundation, framework. If you are familiar with these concepts, I'm about 41 years old, and if you are around my age, you must be remember all these technologies. I don't think many people use these technologies at the moment, but I was quite fanatic with this concepts when I was a computer science student. And then I decided to basically develop a system which does the same thing as Lotus, IBM Lotus system, does, a system, a communication system where basically the users, can exchange, messages, can exchange, tasks, can basically develop, the forms and reports on the fly. So this is by itself a CRM and ERP, framework. It's a little bit, overloaded concept for a, graduation thesis, but this is, what I wanted to do. And then, I created a project plan for me. This was like, 6 months project, a lot of tasks and activities. And I, horribly failed with my, Master of Science because I couldn't basically assess all the requirements in advance. And then there were, different requirements, different expectations, different discussions with my, thesis advisor and everything. And then, just because of this, I had to, basically keep on, studying in the school for another, semester. Okay, this was basically for me, hard, lesson learned when I was, just, undergraduate student. Then I was, I started, looking at, different ways of delivering, such complex projects. And this was the moment, I started, seeing, different, frameworks, such as, extreme programming. And at that time, the Scrum, wasn't a thing, but Kanban is becoming a visible, process. The Kanban and also, the iterative development. We didn't used to say Scrum, but we used to say, iterative development, because in the, in the waterfall, you basically have the waterfall, right? You have the, you have the requirement analysis, you have the design and development QA, and then, the maintenance. You never go back. If you go back, then there is a big, issues. You need to have a change management process and everything in between. But with the iterative process, you have, different iterations to deliver, different pieces of software, and then you step by step, learn around this. And before I discovered this, I had a lot of challenges, and these are already some of the examples that I, encountered, during my, graduation thesis. I had to basically plan the entire project, before I understood what the project was all about. And I am sure, this problem was, must be resonating for you in your corporate, experience. Before you start, doing your own projects, we had to plan everything in advance. We had to know everything in advance. We had the liability to know everything in advance, because otherwise the projects, cycle back from development to design stage, and all this change requests and everything, creates a lot of chaos and frustration, on our business stakeholders. And obviously, all these challenges, creates, lack of commitment, complex change management processes, and working together disciplines among different teams also suffer, right? Because once the developers say to designer, hey, you have an issue in the design phase, and I couldn't do my development. And then obviously the first reaction from a designer is defensive, right? Hey, I spent 3 months to develop this piece of design, and now you can't develop this, and now you are telling me, hey, my design is wrong, and then the two teams fighting against each other. And then this creates the motivation, lack of commitment, and obviously this change management process costs time and money and a lot of unproductive effort in the organization. And obviously waterfall organizations usually require autocratic organization. You need to have a team lead, you need to have a manager, and you need to have different level of tiers in the organizational structure. And obviously this autocratic decisions usually overrule the teams, the common opinion, the common sense opinion. And this obviously is another aspect which which basically hinders the commitment of the Scrum teams as well. Because one of the main reasons that most of us, likes the Scrum frameworks is it gives us the ability to give decisions, correct? It gives us the ability to basically give decisions in our own work, rather than my manager tells me, hey, this is what you're supposed to do today. Hey, this is the correct way to go. No, in the Scrum framework, now we have also not the duty to build our software, to build our work, but also we have the duty to basically give decisions, participate decisions. This enables us a number of things. First of all, develop ourselves quicker, right? We have to think like managers, think like owners. Even though my responsibility can be tester, developer, or in another industry, even my responsibility is an accountant or a finance advisor, even I'm a recruiter or human resource management professional, whatever. Regardless of my role, I need to think like an owner right now with the Scrum and Agile framework, because I also have the liability to give decisions as if a manager does. And in contrary, in non-Agile frameworks, usually you have a tier of management, which gives, all of the decisions on behalf of the teams, and then they basically, disrupt the motivation, disrupt the commitment of the teams. This is why most of us like the Scrum framework, because it gives us, the freedom to give decisions. And obviously, another thing is, I tried to give an example about this, but let me also once more cover, chronic conflict between component teams. Let's say you're a team for, database, database access layer. You have another team for, user interface layer, and you have another team for designers. You have another team for, let's say, quality assurance professionals, and all these teams are different silos, right? They are different, center of competences, and then a project, moves from one competence center to another, and then if there's an issue in some place, and it goes all the way back where it started, and this creates, a lot of chronic conflict between, different teams, between different, center of competences in different, pieces in the organization. And again, this used to be, our problem before we started using the Agile frameworks, and obviously we are continuously in the technical depth. And the worst thing about the technical depth is you can't get out of this unless you do something really radical, unless you do something really totally different from everything you have done, from the past. Because you can resemble the technical debt to the financial debt, right? Because if you have financial debt, God protects, if you have a debt to a bank, what you do is, if you can't basically earn the money to pay your debt fully, what you do is you go to another bank, or you go to your friends or family to ask, additional money to be able to pay at least some piece of your debt, and then you move on, right? And then the cycle, comes back unless you basically clear this debt. Technical debt is not really, quite different. Again, in the technical debt, you basically have a tower of cards, okay, or house of cards. Everything is a little bit shaky, and with one poof, your system basically destroys quite quickly, right? And what you do is, hey, here's another change request. Let's add this feature. And what we do is basically we again put another card on the top of our already, shaky, house of cards. And it's a matter of, minutes or seconds until everything, goes down once again, and the cycle goes on and goes on. And what we're supposed to do is, we have to explicitly work to basically, correct this technical debt. And mostly, this is something, interesting observation of mine, also, remember or look at your own organization, most of the income generating businesses are centered around the most fragile IT systems. Let's say, a telecommunication organization. What is the most critical components of a telecommunication organization? The CRM, or the billing, or the online sales portals in the organization, right? And if one of them goes broken, there are questions about slides. Yes, if you send me a reminder after the session, I will be happy to share them. Caroline and Mohammed, or for anyone else who are interested in having the slides. So these fragile systems basically are centered around the kernel, around the epicenter of our business. And therefore, it's quite crucial for us to basically understand the dynamics going on around the systems. And these are the first systems basically that needs to be candidate to basically transform in a more agile, in a more speedy development stages. Because if you don't do this, if you don't basically pay attention to these income generating systems, your business will struggle, okay? No matter what you are in, what your industry, what your sector, what your niche is, because in the world there is a huge competition, okay? I am, for instance, in the education industry personally for the last 10 years, and the industry 10 years ago is completely different from where it is today, okay? The dynamics, the players, the actors, the student expectations, everything has changed, okay? And if I can't adapt myself to these changes, and you similarly, if you can't adapt the CRM system, the billing system, the online sales systems of your telecommunication, company quicker than your competitors, then you have no more chance to survive in this market. You will be only the followers, okay? You will only see what they have done today, and then you will try to mimic them 6 months or 1 year later. This is how the things work for many of our organizations, okay? Therefore, we need to keep an eye of this income generating, kernel systems. Another thing is, we promise bigger if a past promise was broken. And this is again a problem with the waterfall, because we basically do a lot of mistakes, right? We are humans. That's totally fine. And then what happens is, hey, we are under pressure of the business stakeholders, of the managers, of the leadership. Then they tell us, hey, you have done wrong on this place. You have to correct this. And then what we do, we promise bigger, right? And then the cycle goes on and goes on until the things get far more difficult to resolve. And all these elements that I've explained so far has one unfortunate conclusion for all of us. For all of us, we have no more fun. We used to have no more fun at our works before we use this Agile, Scrum, or Kanban, or DevOps, whatever you want to like or use. Before we use this iterative systems or components, we used to have no more fun at our work because of the problem that I explained here. And this is one of the most strong reasons as well, because if there is no fun in any working environment, you can't expect any commitment. This is one of the crucial points that you need to keep in mind, especially if you would like to establish yourself as an expert in your career or in your organization. So I probably I'm going to skip the slides because the audience we have in the room is not really a beginner audience. I don't know if it makes sense that I give you an overview of the Scrum framework. Do you want to hear the overview of the Scrum framework? Does anyone want me to cover this slide? Because I don't really felt like you are just beginning your Scrum journey. Or is there anyone in the room that wants to hear this slide, that wants to learn more about how these iterations work? Okay, let's do this then. So the slides that you see on the screen is, I'm coming closer to my monitor because not everything is perfectly readable from a distance. Okay. So basically on the top left side, you see different roles on the Agile Scrum organization. So basically we have the Scrum Master, Scrum Product Owner, we have Scrum team members. Also, they can be, called, development team. It really doesn't matter how they call them. So they are basically the people who do the real work. Some people say team members. Some people say development team. It really doesn't matter. You shouldn't, waste your time how you should call, specific things, but you should be understanding what they mean. And obviously, there are stakeholders. Stakeholders, mean either they're internal, business owners. It can be, let's say, okay, story point. I will cover this, Sherry. Perfect point. So they can be basically the internal, participants in your organization. They can be, let's say, your finance department who wants your development team to build a new, accounting software, or if you're a consultant working for a company such as McKinsey or company, or Accenture, or IBM, or Wipro, whatever. They can be your clients who pay money for your consultancy company. These are basically the stakeholders who come you with the requirements. Having said that, let me also give you a very brief outline of what this role means, because some people also ask, specific, definitions about the roles. Product owner is basically the bridge person, the person who coordinates the interactions and integration between the stakeholders and the Scrum team, okay? I can basically call the Scrum product owners the entrepreneurs of the ideas, okay, of the products or services that they want to build. And as you know, entrepreneurs do not necessarily need to know how things are built, right? I don't think Elon Musk knows how to build an electric car, right? I don't think he knows how to build a rocket, but he still, bring the idea together, and then he facilitates the correct, stakeholders, correct investors, and then he basically enables his team to make this dream come true, okay? As a product owner, you need to think like an entrepreneur, okay? You need to think like how I can create the biggest, value, the biggest, income, the biggest business throughput of my organization. This is your role, okay? As a product owner. Your responsibility is not only the product or service that you are delivering. Your responsibility is to create bottom line for your business. This information, you do not get this from many, trainings, because many trainings, are focusing on the aspects of the agile or, software development piece of things, but this is not good enough, okay? You need to think like a business person, as a Scrum product owner. So I'm talking about Scrum product owner, for the last few minutes, because I can't overemphasize the importance of this role for the successful implementation of the Scrum project, okay? Because successful implementation of the Scrum project is not to deliver a piece of software, okay? The successful result, okay? The successful result of a Scrum project is that your company makes profit out of this project. And this is the role of Scrum product owner to make sure this happens. It's so much important. Scrum Master is like the facilitator, okay? Scrum Master is basically the ones in the teams who basically ensures that the Scrum process that you see on the screen is basically being followed by the organization that the Scrum team operates, by the clients, and also by the Scrum team as well. So this is why I told you in the beginning, I think Mohammed, you said to me that your daily Scrum meetings took more than 15 minutes, and then the productivity reduced, etc. This is the problem that Scrum Master needs to resolve, because as a Scrum Master he needs to make it clear that the daily Scrum meetings shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. In these meetings we are only going to say what we have done yesterday, what are we going today, and what are the problems that I need to team's attention. And then everything else that needs to be discussed, okay, needs to be conveyed after the meeting, after the daily Scrum. And this is a simple rule that's followed by all Scrum teams, and this is your Scrum Master's roles to make it clear for the team. Okay, Scrum Master basically facilitates, ensures the Scrum processes are followed in and outside the Scrum teams. Next, the project vision. The project vision is the idea, okay? My idea is, let's say, it's a bad example, but let's go with this example. Let's say my vision is to build this iPhone, okay? My vision is to bring this iPhone to life, okay? And then, okay, it's a very, big idea, obviously. Then how am I going to do this, okay? Let's say I need to find I need to build a hardware to do this. I need to build software. I need to build, let's say, user interface. I need to build, the communication interface. I need to build the GPS interface. I need to build the Wi-Fi. I need to build, 4G, 5G, whatever, all this, different, things that I can't really project plan yet. But, I really need to, break down all this, ideas. So basically, what we're supposed to do is we create this, group. We need to create, the high level concepts, the high level, requirements in order to make our products, come into reality. And then this is what we call, epics. Okay, epics are large user stories, and the way how you distinguish, epic from a user story is an epic can never be implemented in one single sprint. Okay. An epic is larger than one, sprint of work, because you can basically, develop the operating system of the iPhone. As I said, it's a very bad example, but you can basically develop the operating system, the iOS, in one single sprint. It's not possible, but it can be an epic. Okay, build the iOS is my epic, and then I create the user stories. Okay, I create the user stories such as, okay, let's build the layout design of the icons on the the welcome screen. This can be a user story, right? If you can implement this in one single sprint. If you can't do this, then you need to digest it further. Then let's say, let's design, let's design how the icon looks like on the screen. Let's develop one single icon. Let's, develop the functionality that drag and drop, okay? All these different things, whatever fits into one single sprint. The rule for user stories, they need to fit into one single sprint, Multiple, user stories will be running in your one single sprint, and you need to choose the user stories from your epic. In terms of, estimation, why we are using story points? The reason is simple, okay? If you, let's say, this is a, cup of glass, okay? Let's say I go to a, cafe and I say, I want a cup of, glass, okay? What would you say? Would you say, I want a cup of glass, 300, milliliter, or 500 milliliter, 700 milliliter? You never give a, precise, measurement, right? You basically say, okay, if you are quite thirsty, you say, the waiter or waitress, I want a big, glass of water, because you want a lot of water, You need to take this user stories in this way, because most of the times we don't have the ability to fully estimate, to precisely estimate our user stories, okay? You can't basically say if it takes, 10 hours or 15 hours or 20 hours to build your first icon on your iOS operating system. But you can say, okay, this is a decent work that I've never done before. I need to do some research, I need to talk to some, other people, I need to collect information. This obviously, take a lot of time, and obviously implementation and qualification and everything. Then you can simply say, hey, this is a big-ish user story. Okay, it's a big one. Let's say, I don't know, 8 story points or 13 story points. If you follow this Fibonacci number, let's say 13. But someone can tell me, hey, Erkan, I can't really do this in one single, sprint. It's not possible. The development team can't do this. Then what I do is I can even, digest this user story even further to make sure that I can, fit it into one single sprint. So this is why we use, story points rather than, full estimations. Because as humans, we are, creatures of learning, okay? Like it or not, accept it or not, we are learning did not finish after we graduated our schools. We are learning, every single day, including our, professional, exercises. And therefore, implementing a user story is not really different from this. And as human beings, okay, we are not capable of these estimations. We are not capable of this, full estimations. There is a bunch of, psychological, things going on in the subconscious when it comes to this sort of estimations, our experience, our, prejudices, what we believe, what we don't believe. There are, tons of, things that is going on in the mind of, people when you do this sort of, estimations. This can be even a lesson of, 10 days by itself. If you forget about all this, Scrum training exercise and everything. But I can't go deep so much at the moment. But in a nutshell, the message is this: you can't estimate in terms of hours and days these user stories. But you can say this is a big one, this is a short one, this is a medium one. And then you can plan accordingly. And obviously in the very beginning, you can't really know, then the next logical question on behalf of you should be, there's this question, but let me answer. The next logical question is, then how can I know what my team's capacity is? Whether my team can deliver 50 or 60 user stories in one sprint, how I can find out this answer? The answer is you don't find out. You basically try and then see, and then you learn. You don't find out by thinking, okay? You don't find out by discussing with your peers, but you find out by basically experimenting it, by basically trying it, and then improving your numbers. In the beginning, you can be more conservative maybe. This will also help you to protect your face. If the things would not go as good as you initially anticipated, you can say, okay, conservatively, you can say to your management, we predict that we can deliver 30 story points in the sprint, but then if you can deliver 40, then okay, that's good news. Then slowly you can adjust the user story points capacity of the team, and later you can say 40, and then, you know, this is also not something that is, you know, stone grained. And also there is something that I haven't, you know, unfortunately covered in the slides. There is a Tuckman model which is called, you know, it's the team started, you know, from, you know, storming and then norming and then shaping and then performing, okay? And in the very beginning, you know, teams basically, you know, don't have a consensus because everyone is measuring each other, right? You have a new team member, you don't know if he's good or not, you know, if she can, you know, work quite productively or not, you know, you are not really confident. But in time, the team basically becomes a real team, and then they know what they can do and what they can't do, and obviously how quickly they can do. So these are the things, you know, that you need to, you know, pay attention when you basically deal with user stories. Again, the answer is you need to experiment to find out your capacity, and you use the story points because you don't use the real, you know, predictions, because we are not, you know, creatures of perfect estimations. This is something that we can't do for something that we have never done before. This is only possible if this thing has been done before by the same team, in the same environment, under the same, you know, circumstances. If one of these, you know, parameters, if one of these variables change, then your, you know, the results deviate. This is so much important to consider. And around this, basically, we have now the user stories, right? We came until the user stories, and we did this in the sprint planning meeting. You know, sprint planning meeting is basically done by the whole, you know, Scrum team, including the Scrum product owner. The meeting usually starts, you know, Scrum product owner, you know, creates the vision, the goal for the sprint, and then the team basically agrees with the Scrum product owner how many story points and what stories they can deliver until the end of the sprint. And then the sprint, you know, starts, and then we do daily Scrum. This takes 15 minutes a day, and it covers 3 questions from each member of the development team. These 3 questions are: what I have done yesterday, are there any problems that I need the team's help or attention, and what I'm going to do today. As I mentioned to you before, based on Mohammed's question, if the meeting takes more than 15 minutes, then you park that question at that moment, and then you continue that question after the meeting with the required members of the team. There are also some other, you know, artifacts that you can use. These are not really defined by the original, you know, Scrum framework, but these can be used, mostly used by many Scrum teams. You can use a burn down chart in 2 levels. One is the product level, and then the other is sprint level. The burn down chart is, let's say, if my, you know, the overall product takes, let's say, 1,000 story points, okay, then after each sprint, I deduct the story points that I delivered in that sprint. Let's say if in sprint 1, I delivered, you know, 50 story points, then I make 1,000 minus 50, you know, 950 is remaining. Then 950 is the next level in my story point, in my burn down chart. And then if the next sprint, if I delivered, you know, 40 story points, then 950 minus 40 makes 910, and then 910 is the remaining in my product burn down chart. And then there is another burn down chart which you can see in the screen. This is the sprint burn down chart, because in the sprint planning meeting, we have chosen some story points, right? We have decided the story points, we have chosen some user stories, and then we say, hey, this is basically takes, let's say, I'm making up, you know, 58 story points for that, you know, for the particular sprint that I'm starting today, okay? 58 story points. And then you basically follow the completed, story point during the course of the sprint. And now you say, if I finish now the user story A, and if it's like, you know, 5 story points, then 58 minus 5, 53 is remaining, and then it goes down and down and down. And this is a good indication, not only for your team, but also for the product owner, but also for the, you know, the business stakeholders to see how the sprint is going. And also there's an impediment log. Impediment log is basically, as the name implies, it shows the errors that needs, you know, team's attention. And it's one of the, you know, the Scrum Master's duties to keep an eye on the impediment log and then facilitate the necessary, you know, coordinations in and outside the Scrum team to make sure that they are, you know, subtly handled. Sometimes, you know, a resolution of an impediment require, you know, the involvement of an expert from an external, party, from an external team. Let's say if I am now developing the accounting software required by the finance department of my organization, and if my developer is not certain about a certain, use case, then as a Scrum Master, I go and pick the associated business owner, and then I make him help my developers so my developer can understand the requirement and then attempt to implement this on time until the end of the sprint, review meeting. And then the sprint review meeting, basically it's like a mini demonstration. Most Scrum teams unfortunately don't do this, but the idea of the sprint review meetings is to demonstrate a shippable product running in a real production environment. What we're supposed to do is basically so what we basically do in these meetings is we basically install the products on a production-like system, and then on this production-like systems, the Scrum team demonstrates the product on the product owner, and if necessary, also other stakeholders as well. In the sprint review meeting, by the way, the stakeholders also can freely join to see how their product is going. So basically, the idea of the sprint review meetings is not only, to fulfill the team's, the progress, to observe how the team is going, but also the idea is to demonstrate the stakeholders how well we are doing with the product. And then sprint retrospective meeting, it's a relatively shorter meeting. It precedes directly after the sprint review meeting most of the times. And the sprint retrospective meeting, the team basically discusses, what went well and what went not so well in the last sprint that the team just concluded. And many organizations, do the sprint review meetings, little bit suboptimal than they supposed to be, because they only talk about the technicalities of the project. They say, we struggled, to understand, this, piece of software, we had issues with the networking. We couldn't basically, get the firewall settings, enabled on time, etc. The teams basically focus on, micro level things that usually, repeats again and again and again, okay? When I, coach the Scrum teams, I usually notice that before they understood the next point that I'm going to tell you, they never had an improvement after the sprint retrospective meetings. They just complained and then the same thing, repeated forever. The idea of the sprint retrospective meeting is not to only talk about the problems, okay? The idea of the sprint retrospective meeting is to find the gaps, okay, in the organizational processes which caused these problems in the first place. If we talk about a similar example, my developer, couldn't basically develop the product on time because the firewall couldn't be set on time. Then what is the problem here? Obviously, someone from the network administration team wasn't on board, right? Wasn't on board. Therefore, this process piece was basically missing in the organization, and then the team couldn't able to deliver this piece on time. Then the idea should be, okay, then the Scrum Master now understands the problem, right? As we said, Scrum Master is responsible to resolve this impediment. And then the Scrum Master goes to the operations team and then says, hey guys, we basically need occasional help from you to set up our firewalls to be able to continue our development. So who can help me at this work? And then this integration, this small arrangement between different teams can help your organization to quickly handle this sort of impediments on time. Again, focus on the process, okay? You can also challenge the way you use the Scrum framework, by the way, okay? There is no one-size-fits-all answer, okay? You can also, you shouldn't blindly follow the recipe, okay? There may be chances that you need to also tweak some aspects of the Scrum, some aspects of the application of Scrum framework in your organization. This is very subtle and controversial point, but I just want to share a case study with you. This is not fully relevant, but also relevant at the same time to understand that why it's important that you must be open to tweak the processes that you use. In one organization that we consulted, we observed that the developers are really great people, great educations, great skill sets, but still they can't perform good enough. They can't basically deliver good enough. What we noticed is that as these people are quite talented, okay, as these people are quite well, they are mostly in competition to each other, okay. Instead of working as a team, instead of seeing that the sum of all of them are better than their combination, they basically worked kind of independent solo one guy teams, and therefore these teams could never deliver their top performance. And what we decided is again I'm not saying you should be doing this, but I've personally seen this deliver great results. What we have done is we have given more authority to Scrum Masters. I am only saying so much. We have given more opportunity to Scrum Masters, and the team performed far more better than they used to do. And what we have only done is we have given more responsibilities, more authorities to Scrum Masters to be able to more guide, coach, and then help their teams, but little bit in an authoritative way. Okay, I don't want to go into details because this is quite controversial subject, but my message is this: in the sprint retrospective meetings, you should be also open to challenge the process you use. You should be also observing how things are going, okay? Because not only we are not only talking about IT, okay? We are not talking about software. We are not only talking about industries. We are basically people, right? It's a people business. Every business is a people business. If your people are not on board, it really doesn't matter if you are the best trained Scrum Master, if you are the best trained product owner, if you are the best trained Java developer, database administrator. It really doesn't matter. If your people are not on board, you can't get it done. And therefore, you should be keeping an eye on this subtle elements in every team, in every organization, and then you should be tweaking your process accordingly. This is not only for Scrum or DevOps or Kanban. This is for everything as well. This is for everything you do in your business. You should be challenging the processes, because as paid professionals, okay, our duty, actually not only duty, our obligation is to get the thing done, okay, to get the thing done. So our organization makes money, so they can keep on paying our salaries. And we are as useful as we accomplish this objective. Therefore, always be open, always be challenging on the process, on the elements, on the tools, on the frameworks that you use. Don't, attach them. And therefore, deep dive on the sprint retrospective meetings. Ask questions which are difficult to answer, which are challenging to answer. Then you will get the real value from sprint retrospective meeting. The reason why I also spend a little bit more time on the sprint retrospective is this, because this is the way you improve. Because just after the sprint retrospective meeting, is the sketch implies you start the next sprint. Then please don't repeat the same mistakes again in the next sprint, and then you continue this process until you deliver your epics, until you deliver your project vision, until you make your stakeholders fully happy. So this is the breakdown of the Scrum framework in some, I think, like 10 or 15 minutes. And thank you very much for your feedback, Deborah. Okay. So this is one question. Actually, I want to cover a number of things on the slides. How do you become I made a typo on the slides. How to become good at Scrum? Okay, that's correct, Sherry. Most organizations, as I said, most organizations only discuss superficial things that doesn't create any value in the end. Unfortunately, I totally agree with you, Sherry. So So how do you become good at Scrum? Okay, sorry for the typo in the Scrum. So you don't become at Scrum. You become good at Scrum. First of all, act like a Scrum expert and think, work, and live in a way that your team members wish they could live. Okay, and therefore it's first keep on learning, and then after you come to a level, after you come few steps ahead from your team members, then you start teaching them. It's quite important. And do you know there is an interesting movie which is called let me try to remember its name. Catch Me If You Can. Do you remember Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks acting in this movie? And Tom Hanks acting a con artist who is acting as a pilot. He's really driving a commercial airplanes, who is then acting as a university professor. It's like Catch Me If You Can. This is the name of the movie as well. And then the guy in the end will be caught, okay? And then he was on the court, and then the judge asked him, how do you teach an advanced philosophy in the university without having a philosophy education? How have you done this? The judge asked this to Tom Hanks. And then Tom Hanks says, what I have done is I was just one capture ahead from my students. I just read the 2 capture ahead from my students, and then I came to the school, and then I taught this to my students. As an expert, it's precisely what you're supposed to do. Okay, you don't need, basically, you don't have anyway years long to establish yourself as a proficient person in any area of knowledge. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to be a few steps further than your mates, than your peer group. Then they will automatically see you as their leader, as their expert. I will also give you some more concrete tips how you do this, because saying, hey, keep on developing yourself is an easy tip to give, but I'm going to give you a number of things that you can do from today to reach this objective. And maintain absolute certainty. Okay, gaining certainty takes time and quite a lot of investment of time on your side, but certainty is what draws people to expert and to leaders. But again, here one warning: don't become a stubborn person, okay? Because the reality that we perceive today is our hypothesis for tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow we will again challenge this. This is how we keep on developing, because expert is a quite overloaded word. Our goal is not to become an expert. Our goal is to become a student of our niche, whatever it is. It can be a Scrum, it can be DevOps, it can be becoming a good leader, it can be becoming a good father, it can be becoming a good mother, a good spouse, whatever. Our goal is to become the student of our objective, not the expert of our objective. Because the moment you say, hey, I'm an expert, then you are done with learning. Don't be this. Therefore, be careful when you are becoming confident and absolute certain about your cause. And don't be boring, be someone who invents new and unique ideas all the time and celebrate success and celebrate lessons learned as well. Here I want to say one more thing, which is quite, important to understand. Celebrate errors as well, okay? Because there is no such a thing of overnight success, okay? There is no such a thing of, being an overnight, great manager, great, Scrum Master, great, Scrum product owner. There is no such a thing has ever happened, and this will never happen. First of all, before you become good, you have to be bad, okay? And then before you are going to be bad, you need to try. This is what you, keep in mind. Without trying, you can't go anywhere else. Therefore, don't be afraid of doing mistake. And if you are in a position in your team who basically rate, fire, or hire people, give them room to do errors, because the more errors they do, the more they will learn. Just make sure that you create an environment in your organization to help them, make mistakes, to help them learn and then share their learnings. And this philosophy more comes not from Scrum, by the way, but I'm just saying in the last 30 to 60 seconds is one of the core things in the DevOps that wasn't, fully covered in the Scrum framework. So basically, as Alex formulated very well, this feedback loops coming from the errors, will be helping quite a lot to build your team and then to create more fun at work. This is such an environment that you need to establish. This is a perfect question, Adioe. I'm going to give you a recipe how we accomplish this. It's not easy though. It's a lot of work that you need to do, but there is a way of doing this. And you will surprise how easy it is actually. But it's a lot of work still. And understand what people need. So this is kind of, how you influence your audience in your organization, okay? People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, take away their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies, okay? Will help them to get their objectives, and then these people will follow you, okay? This is again, the slide is a little bit overloaded because this slide can be again a 10-day training by itself under the title of influence. But here I'm going to give you a nutshell of, how, make people, follow your, dreams as much as, you basically believe in these dreams. You basically encourage their dreams. What they want is a productive working environment that they can develop themselves, right? Encourage their dreams. Make them feel that Scrum initiative in your organization can enable this. Justify their failures, because don't tell them, hey, you failed this because you have blindly followed this wrong processes. Because if you tell them if they're done wrong, then they will never follow you. This is not the way of doing this. You basically, what you need to tell is, hey, I understand you. You haven't had the chance to use the correct environment. You haven't been in the correct environment. But now there's a new opportunity that we call, Agile Scrum development. Let's give a chance. Let's see these organizations. Let's see how we can, adopt this in our organization. And then take away their fears. How do you do this? Then they will tell you, hey, I saw this organization which failed this Scrum. I know this case study that never, worked so well. Then what you need to do is show them the case studies, how they worked. Show them the slides that I showed you in the beginning. Projects or programs can fail or work, succeed despite or because of good or bad processes, and confirm their suspicions. Tell them they're right. Tell them you had the same suspicions, and tell them how you overcome around them, and then throw rock at their enemies. This is one of the best ways that many leaders are afraid to do. But when I basically studied the biggest commercial and non-commercial leaders, including politicians and historical figures, what I've seen is that the leaders who are polarizing their audience, who are bold enough to say, hey, this is my audience and this is not my audience, always became more successful than the ones who try to make them the lovers of everyone. Look at the example of Steve Jobs. Look at the example of Bill Gates. Look at the example of the President of the United States. Look at the example of many other people. These are polarizing people who basically make them either be loved for a certain audience or be hated for another type of audience. This is the polarizing, and this works perfectly well when you want to establish yourself as a leader. You create your cause, you polarize your audience, and then you pick up your own audience, and then you basically exclude the rest, because you anyway need people who follow you to accomplish your objective in your organization as a good Scrum Master, as a good Scrum product owner, as a good scaled Scrum expert, or as a good Agile Scrum leader. You basically polarize the ones, the other organizations, the other ways which do not fulfill your current understanding, and you honor the ways how you basically believe the things should be done. And this is how you get people follow you. And then you care a lot, obviously, no need to say, not much to explain here. You show genuine interest, and you help them to overcome all these fears, confirm their suspicions. You spend time with them. You basically go extra mile, and you care a lot. For instance, this is why I basically do a webinar on my own off day, because I want to spend this day for people who cares most about the Scrum framework, because on a Sunday I know that only the people who are basically on this mission will join this session, and this is why I'm spending on this Sunday on the session with you, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what you're supposed to do with your own audience, whether they are few people or whether they are hundreds of thousands of people. It really doesn't matter. Caring them a lot will establish you as a person who is going to help the others. And if your team members value from their perceived relationship with you, again, not everyone will become your cows for the same reason. Some people will come to the job for careers. Excuse me. Some people will come to the job for know-how. Some people will come for learning. Some people will come to steal your ideas. I've seen all these examples. It really doesn't matter, but in order to keep them, in order to get the best out of them, you need to offer them the perceived value between your and their relationship. This is how you make them value your own causes. And if you believe in your mission as a Scrum professional, then you have a moral obligation to improve your team and your team members' work in every way possible. You basically can't go away after you learn so much. You have now this obligation to follow this cause as much as you can, because there are really I have some case studies as well, some student and organizational case studies, but this moral obligation is basically what's basically helped you to establish yourself as an expert as well. Yes, the session is recorded. I'm not going to, I don't know when I'm going to publish them, but still, if you remind me, for the ones who want the quick access, if you send me an email to the webinar confirmation email that you received, I can try to organize a link for you in a few days that you can access. Now, I want to go through the questions that you also typed. I think most of them have been covered at some degree, but I want to go each and all of them. Ken's question: can the Scrum certification guarantee job for life? Okay, so basically, no certification can guarantee job for life. Can, but what I can tell is your security is your competence. Okay. Your ability to continue to develop new skills and become a non-replaceable employee will increase your chances for lifetime job security. Okay, here I am repeating, it's quite important, probably one of the most important things from the session today. Again, your ability to continue to develop new skills and become a non-replaceable employee will increase your chances for lifetime security. Okay. Suman asks basics of question, so I think we covered of this already. Alice asking, could we use Agile approach for any type of project? Yes, you can use Scrum in any type of project as long as you are able to create epics, at least as long as you are able to create user stories, and as long as you are able to create tasks. And SM Nafil Hussein asked, do we need to keep individual Scrum Master and Scrum Product Owner for every Scrum team? Or a single Scrum Master can handle many Scrum teams? If the answer is no, then isn't it difficult to manage the resource bandwidth? So the answer is yes. Done effectively, both Scrum Master and Product Owner responsibilities could be delivered with part-time capacity, so they can perform other tasks as well. In the beginning, it may be difficult, Hussein. I don't know if you're in the session, but in the beginning, it can be difficult, Hussein, to accomplish this, because they first need to make sure that the teams will set up. But after the team established very well, after they come to the performing stage, then they can obviously do other tasks as well. How to become effective Scrum Master? Sravana Kumar's question. So the short answer is you can't be good before you are bad, and you can't be bad before you try. And the last slide that I've given you, Sravana Kumar, is the way that you establish yourself as a good Scrum Master. But I'm going to give you also some more actionable tips in some minutes with another question. Grace asked, how does it the question, the issue. How can I think the question try to ask, how can I become a competent Scrum trainer or coach? Again, the last question, I'm going to give you some further tips. Akindia asked, I'm into quality assurance and I studied information technology. How beneficial Scrum to my career? So Scrum is an iterative and role agnostic framework to iteratively learn and discover about your products or services while you build them. So the underlying principles will help you regardless of your roles and responsibilities. So it really doesn't matter, Akindia, if you are coming from QA or development or business analyst, the Scrum framework will help you a lot, even if you are not in the IT industry. And Andika Chima Kingsley is asking, how do I use certification for my career advancement and growth? So certification will prove your inclination and investment to build yourself. The more you invest yourself, the more the employers and clients would invest in you, would want to invest in you. Here, one thing which is important to also, remember, we basically, invest the things, such as, materials, right? I mean, we invest, cars, we invest, apartments, we invest, let's say if you have a car, you try to keep it clean, right? You try to make sure that nobody scratches this. You try to, make sure that you go to the, the regular, services and everything, with the idea that one day when you want to sell this car, it doesn't, lose its value. Okay, you keep on, maintaining it. You keep on investing in it. You don't need to go to service, right? You can still use your car without any services, even though it may not be secure enough. You can still do it, no problem, and you can still sell it. But then the buyer will see, okay, you haven't done the official services, and then this will impact your sales price, right? But when it comes to careers, most people assume that being a professional will be good enough when they want to change your job, or when they come to a station that they lose their job and suddenly they are in a hurry to find a new job. And unfortunately, at that times, the ones who invest in their careers will always be in advantage because they upgraded themselves. They brought, it's a bad example, but they brought themselves to the service. They basically upgraded their skills. They basically made sure that they are, past know-how, again, refreshed, replenished, and then they are good performance. And then the certifications, the additional trainings will basically, prove your inclinations to the employers that you are the student of this journey, okay? You don't become an expert, right? You don't need to become an expert, by the way. In fact, you shouldn't be. But this, inclination will prove the employers that you're investing yourself and they want to invest you by giving the salary. So this is the idea of continuous development. And Duka Chima Kingsley. And Carlos is asking, what is the growth of Scrum in sectors other than development? So every day, Carlos, I see examples in finance, human resource management, manufacturing, hardware, government as well, and also obviously research, not only in the IT research, also in chemical, in biochemistry, bio industry, in many industries now, Scrum is being already used, and there are even examples in the education. Let's say the user stories teaching, one certain subject. I'm personally using this at home with my 10-year-old daughter, not in the way of Scrum, but we have a Kanban board, and with the Kanban board, we define the subject that we want to, cover. I'm studying with my daughter the things that she doesn't learn in the school and that she won't be learning in life in any of the schools, such as, the psychology, sociology, or, influence, or such as, the perception and things, or the subconscious, all the subjects that we never know in the schools that impacts our whole life. So I'm covering this with my 10-year-old daughter on a Kanban board. Okay, all these things are totally industry agnostic. And as I said, there are concrete examples in HRM, in finance. In finance, what can be a tangible example that I basically witnessed quite sometime before. In the end of the year, companies, including my company, need to do a declaration to the tax authorities about your finances, right? What are your sales numbers? What are your, expenses, and then the breakdown of invoices that you have given to your clients, breakdown of invoices that you basically collected from vendors for your expenses and etc. And then all this the value-added tax calculation is another nightmare, and everything needs to be processed. And now you define user stories. Okay, in the sprint we cover the user stories, and I need to do this in every third month. In Switzerland, we do, let's say, value tax in every third month. I don't know how it works in your country. Here, I have to have such a, user story in every third month to implement in my organization. And then in the end of the year, I need to have a user story, to basically, create the end year, reports, and then the conclusions, and then everything, all these things can be implemented by using Scrum. As I mentioned you before, in everywhere that you can create epics, okay? What are the epics? Reminder, epics are big user stories that can't be implemented in one single user story. Everywhere that you can create epics, user stories and tasks in every industry, in every project, personal and professional, you can use Scrum framework. Next, Tapelo's question. I have just certified as a Scrum Master, and I also have Agile Practitioner certification, but I have not practiced. I might get a job soon as a Scrum Master, and I'm curious, what would be the best advice you can give to someone new to Scrum? Okay, this is a good question, and I believe I have a good formula for this that I have, advised a number of people and gotten very good results. Actually, they've gotten extreme good results, not only good results. The first thing that they've done is they showed up, okay? First of all, show up, okay? Show up the events, such events like this, online events, collect information. Show up also physical events, maybe because of COVID-19, it's not the perfect time to show up, physical events, but show up events, but also not only about Scrum, but also different industries as well. Try to bring the dots together from different industries, from different processes and concepts. Try to meet with different people from different cultures and industries. Show up and then join events. This is one of the tips, Tapelo. Another one is keep learning. Keep on learning from such events, from books, from webinars, from blogs, from vlogs, from YouTube, everywhere. Keep on learning. Another one, actually another another three tips that not many people do. Do voluntary work, okay? What does it mean? Let's say, and do voluntary work for the causes that you really care, okay? Let's say if the place that you live has issues in the governmental sector or in the charities and everywhere, go there and offer your help. Let's say, hey guys, I learned such a process and I know this works well. Let me help you. Let's give a try for a low risk project to implement the Scrum framework or to implement the Kanban framework to deliver this project. Let's do this. I'm not asking any money. I want to help you. I want to come here maybe 3 hours every week just to interact with your team, guide your team, and then let's see how this works. There is nothing to lose in the end, right? But you offer them your help, and this works well. 99% experience that I see, this works very well because you don't have any expectation except helping others, right? And then guess what? These people will become your references when you look for a job. They tell you perfect things. Hey, this guy came here with so much excitement. They helped us to deliver this project with big, security, with big, output. They become your references. They might even offer you a job. But even though they may not offer you a job, they can help you. They can become your biggest references when you're looking for a job. This is, by the way, far more important than any trainings that you do, doing a voluntary work, because you show your genuine interest in the area, you show your genuine interest in the concept, and you prove the employer that you are a helpful person. And another one, okay, what we said, do voluntary work. Another one is interview experts, okay? Try to reach people, in your industry, okay? By the way, this tip is not only valid for the Scrum. You can be, let's say, a brain surgeon that just finished the school, but you can't find a job because you don't have any experience. It's always the same story. Because if you don't have an experience, it's always finding a job. I totally understand this. I've been on the same place. If we don't have an experience in a certain place, we can't find a job. That's it, okay? Then how we collect the experience? The first one I told you, do voluntary work, the free way of collecting experience. Second, go and interview experts, okay? Reach, let's say if you're a brain surgeon in your community or outside your community, try to identify the contact details of these people, send them emails, try to call their assistants and make them an appointment. Hey, I'm doing a blog, or I'm doing a vlog, or I'm doing a podcast. I want to I'm not asking so much of your time. I have few questions, and here are, by the way, the questions that I want to discuss with you. Do you got 15 minutes to spend with me on the phone or on the video conference, or face to face, whatever works for you? You give them all the freedom to choose how they want to interact with you, and then you interview this individual 15 minutes. Guess what? You build association with that person. Now you can, on your blog, you can say, hey, I talked to this, famous, brain surgeon for 15 minutes, and he gave me this valuable tips. You put them on your blog, you put them on your vlog, you put them on your, website, you put them on your resume even, you put them on your, podcast. All this, interviews creates a huge source of data for you. And guess what? This interviews also will give you extremely valuable information to build yourself. After you interview 10 people, so imagine how much you learned from these people. Can you imagine, as a brain surgeon, if you interview 10 other brain surgeons, how much you learn from them? Because you ask them the similar questions. And for similar questions, you collect a different point of views, right? And then this creates you to build your own point of view. You filter, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, whether it worked for this person by luck or by coincidence or because the correct time, correct place. But on the other hand, you synthesize information in your own way, in your own, perception. And then you basically use this information, use this, ideas, use this know-how to create your own character, to create your own professional personality. And then this will help you to create authority in your market. And then guess what? Who does this? Nobody, right? And then you play the game, you start the game with advantage. Let's say if you go to, I hear stories for every job ad in, let's say for every job ad in any place, in monster.com, wherever, there are like 600 job applications. But guess what? How many of the 600 people do this practice that I just told you? My guess is zero, because I've never seen people who did this. This would help you to basically, create yourself, differentiate yourself from the crowd. Another thing, tell people what you learned and what you earned, okay? What I mean is, you basically, when you tell people about such stories, okay, let's say if you interview the famous brain surgeon and then you learned it's a better example, I have a brain surgeon example, but if you learned quite interesting tips, how to, open the amygdala and then make an operation in it, this may be an interesting know-how for you, but then give the credit to this individual. Tell them, okay, this is how I learned it. But there is also information how you earned, okay? And earning comes by doing, and earning comes from this voluntary attempts. And basically, the way to start is basically with the interviews. You start learning, and with the voluntary work, you start earning, okay? Did you understand the difference? You learn and you earn. You learn from the interviews, from the interactions with experts, with people who are a few steps behind you, and then the experience, the know-how you earn, okay, from the real life experiences you are doing. And if you formulate this well in your resume, in your website, in your blog, in your vlog, in your podcast, then all this input will help you a lot to distinguish, to differentiate yourself from the crowd, Tapelo. So this is what you're supposed to do, Tapelo. If you are just starting without any experience, then you will surprise the results. So Abi Idavu Titus has asked, can Scrum Master be engaged in any other role apart from Scrum responsibilities? Yes, why not? So Swati Butata asked, what are challenges faced by Scrum Master and how to handle these challenges? So here is one thumb of rule, Swati. So the guide of any type of facilitator in business is to preserve and augment business interest. This is our guide, okay? I'm repeating, the guide of any type of facilitator in business is to preserve and augment business interests. This is our guide. Scrum Master's role is not to babysit paid professional. I'm sorry, this is a little bit harsh, but Scrum Master's role is not to babysit paid professionals. Scrum Master resolves challenges with this guidance and by paying attention to the social and political nuances in organizational ecosystems. So basically, you pay attention to the social dynamics without becoming a babysitter. Because if you start becoming a babysitter, this is the quickest recipe to basically underperform your Scrum initiative. Mohammed's question, I'm a software engineer. I've been so interested in converting to soft skills. What do I need to convince the recruiter that I can be great Scrum Master even if my background is 100% technical oriented? Again, the tips that I just mentioned about caring people a lot, about being one step further than the others, showing up, all these interviews, all this voluntary work and everything will help you to differentiate yourself. And by the way, Mohammed, being a technical oriented is totally not an issue because 95% of the Scrum Masters are anyway, coming from the technical backgrounds. But for the ones who are not technicals, by the way, don't think that, hey, I have to be technical to become a Scrum Master. No, it has nothing to do with the Scrum Master and technicalities, okay? Scrum Master is a facilitator. Ideally, he or she must be a team member as well, but there is no such a must as well. And Nicoletta asked, what exactly is inspect and adapt and how it is applied in the Scrum? So, Nicoletta, so basically, iterative learning and discovery while doing the work is the inspect and adapt. So I talked about 5 to 10 minutes about sprint retrospective meetings. Sprint retrospective meetings are your weapon to do such inspections and adaptations. And inspection adaptations shouldn't only contain the details or technicalities, but they must also contain the process aspects of your work that you are performing. Bharat's questions, interesting question. Can you explain KPIs versus OKRs? So key difference, Bharat, between OKRs, objectives and key results, and KPIs. So OKR means, by the way, for the ones who are new to this concept, OKR means objectives and key results, and KPI means key performance indicators. So key difference between these two is the intention behind goal setting. KPI goals are typically obtainable and represent the output of a process or project, okay? KPIs, Bharat, focus on output of a process or project, while OKR goals are somewhat more aggressive and ambitious business goals to boost the perspectives of your business. Here there's an example which is not taught in many OKR trainings, but it helped me quite a lot in my own career as well. A good KPI can be this. My KPI is, let's say, the capacity of a Scrum team can be concluded, can be evaluated as a KPI, right? I can say the capacity of my Scrum team is, let's say, 58 story points. This is my KPI. This is a key performance indicator. This can go up or down, but this is the KPI, okay? The capacity of my Scrum team, the capacity of my Scrum team in a given sprint. This is my KPI. Then what is OKR? OKR is my goal, and the type of goals that I like is this. How I can make this 10 times better, right? Confusing, but it's also very interesting. How I can make something 10 times better, because this gives you the ability to think completely different than you used to think. Because if I want to improve, okay, this iPhone, let's say, if I want to improve this, let's say I'm the designer or whatever, this iPhone, okay? I want to improve this. My OKR can be this. How I can improve this 10 times, okay? Then I'm thinking now completely differently because this is already an amazing phone, the world's #1, mobile phone. Okay, you may disagree if you like Android more than I do, but for me it's the most mobile phone. But how I can still improve this 10 times, okay? This is a very aggressive OKR. Then you change the perspective because everything that you have done so far is focused on micro incremental improvements. But if I want to make it 10 times better, now I need to play in a different league, okay? And especially if you are business people among you, such as business owner or entrepreneurs or key decision makers in your organization, ask this question. Then you will see a quite different perspective than you used to see. How I can make this 10 times different. And this is the main difference between OKR and KPI. Bharat. This was Bharat's question. Nice question. Rakesh asked how to manage SDLC, how to manage software delivery lifecycle in Agile Scrum. So you see it Sprint as a mini SDLC, Rakesh, ideally, but this is not an obligation. Exceptions are not excluded and there is no one-size-fits-all approach. This is why Inspect and Adapt is not only valid for your project goals, but it's also valid for your processes as well. Malin asked, what's the difference between Scrum and Agile? Is a Scrum Master a project manager? So Agile is the underlying principles and mindset, Malin, and Scrum is one of the Agile processes. It can be sometimes called Agile Scrum. So Agile Scrum is the same thing as Scrum, but Agile is not only Scrum, okay? So Scrum is one of the Agile processes. And you asked, is a Scrum a project manager? No, Scrum Master and product owner possess the roles and responsibilities of a typical project manager in waterfall delivery lifecycle. So Evelyn's question, which one is better, lean or design thinking in Agile project to know the real problems? So lean and design thinking, Evelyn, are not competing approaches. You should be getting the best from both of them and you should restrict yourself to one approach. From both of them, what I mostly like is, lean makes you, things simpler. You get, all superficial details that doesn't create business value and you focus on essentials. This is what I love with lean, and design thinking, will give you the conscious, focus to make this better, especially with the inclusion of team members and brainstorming session, incremental improvements, etc. Don't see them, different from each other, but try to get best from both of them. And Gergerli asked, I work as a Scrum Master. I often face situation where I can't help bending Scrum. So far, I think I didn't break it. The question is there any well-defined line that shall never ever, under no circumstances, be crossed? Thanks, smiley. Okay. Gregarly, so this is a nice question. My personal answer to this question, Gregarly, is we are basically paid professionals, as I say, to deliver monetary business results. So our employers will be able to pay our salaries. So if getting the business results do heavily require the adaptation of tools and processes we use, this is what we supposed to do. So I'm basically totally not against bending processes as long as they help you getting the business, they help you getting the better business results. So in the beginning, of course, it's all about hypothesis, right? Don't forget about this, Gergel, if you're still on the session. So it's all about hypothesis. You bend, and then you validate your hypothesis to see if it makes sense or not. If it does, yes, keep on doing this. If it doesn't, roll back to the old way of doing things, and then try to, implement new ideas. This is the way that any agile process is supposed to work. Alex's question, if DevOps is more efficient at delivering quality software, why should we keep using Scrum? So Scrum and DevOps are not competing approaches, Alex. You should be getting the best from both of them, and you shouldn't restrict yourself to one of them. I promised one of you to give a detailed overview of DevOps and Scrum. I think this is a good moment to share one link with you from our DevOps Academy's web portal. I'm just looking for the article for you, Alex, and for everyone who is curious about seeing a detailed comparison or outline of comparison between these two processes. It's a very long article, Alex. I really don't have time to go each and all of the material here, but this link will help you see a large comparison between these two. So Winifred and Van Jong asked question, what's the Scrum Master supposed to do to get their foot in the door after certification? Every place asks for certification. I think this is the identical question. So as I mentioned, show up, interview experts to learn, and then do voluntary work to earn, okay? These are the tips that I can give you, Winifred. Irena was asking the link. This is, I think, just above your comment, Irena. Hoza Aurelian was asking, what is the best step for someone who has no previous experience with Scrum and wants to learn by himself? Same question, same answer. And Ruchi, what's the difference between Scrum Master and Scrum Coach? Please explain roles and responsibilities for both. Okay. So Scrum Master is, by the way, Ruchi, 99% of times fixed to a single team, and he or she is mostly part of the Scrum development team. Coaches are usually very experienced Scrum Masters. They interact with multiple Scrum teams and organizational leadership stakeholders to fine-tune and optimize across the board use of Scrum and other Agile processes, such as DevOps, Kanban, and obviously Scrum as well. So coach is basically more overarching role to ensure correct implementation of Agile processes in an Agile Scrum organization, whereas Scrum Masters are usually only responsible to one single team. Okay, so Pearl's question, how do you apply Scrum and Agile principles effectively and productively in the human resources field? It's the same question as before. Remember the example that I given from the finance industry peer. So it's really the same concept in the human resources. Let's say, what does human resource do? The main thing is, let's say, the performance management of employees. One example, again, if you want to bring a new performance management process, you create a pick, and then you create user stories, and then you create tasks, and then you iteratively, exactly like the chart that I've shown you before, like we discussed on it before, you implement the same stuff on the human resources as well. Peer. So these are the questions that you have given me during the event registration. So I tried to cover all of them. Okay. So now we are coming to the event session, to this, the offer session of this event. So basically here, I'm giving you the chance to join our, officially join our community with more than 30,000 people. Here in C, in LinkedIn only, we have more than 30,000 followers, but we sold these programs more than 100,000 of times so far. And these are only the ones who are following us from LinkedIn. And our success stories, our use case stories are quite a lot. Here I'm going to, share with you only a few of them. This is one of the companies, Microtrain from United States, Chicago, and this is their celebration picture that they made after the event. And thanks to courtesy from them, they shared this amazing picture with us, and we proudly also present this picture to our students as well. And here you see another, case study from our students. Different programs, different success stories. You see tons of likes, tons of congratulations comment. Amazing success stories. The numbers are unlimited. These are just a few of them that I just collected. By coincidence, as you see, people are cheering with these success stories. All the time, and we are basically proud not only of ourselves but also of the success stories of our students. So basically today, as I mentioned, I'm going to give you an offer that will basically help you to get started with our programs as quickly and as affordably as we can. And this offer is, by the way, not for everyone. I'm going to share you a special link with you before that we have never shared with anyone so far. You know, the session was not anyway about an offer, but as you spend your time, for the ones who haven't been certified before with us, I also would like to give you the ability to get started as affordable and as quickly as possible. So first of all, first thing first, you know, this offer has never been shared so far, and we are only making this offer available to you because you proved you're an action taker when you took advantage of this live class on a very nice Sunday. At least in Switzerland, it's a perfect weather. And so I'm going to make you a special one-time offer that's only available right here, right now. And what I'm going to share with you right now will help you become a credible Scrum expert or a student of Scrum. As I said, I really personally don't like the word expert, don't like the word expert, but this really makes you a credible Scrum student faster than ever without stress. So the process of our certification programs are quite lean, by the way. So the process is like register online for your Scrum certification program, and we provide you all the training material, all the bonuses that I'm going to talk to you in a minute, and we send your exam access code instantly online after registration, and you take your test exam anywhere and anytime you want and answer multiple choice test questions, and you get your lifetime valid certification instantly after you finish your exam. By the way, don't worry about failing your exam. We offer exam pass guarantee because we see also certification exam a part of the learning process, okay? So if you may fail your exam after an unfortunate attempt, we will free of charge and immediately reactivate your exam access code, and then you can take your exam once again as soon as or whenever you want, up to 10 times. And here are, you know, frequently asked questions about Scrum certification programs. Do I need to schedule my certification, my exam access? No, you don't need to schedule. As soon as you register, we provide your access, we provide your exam access code, and then you can do your exam anytime you want. There is no hurry. If you don't want to miss today's offer, you can basically register today, but then you can take your time to study or learn, or if you've got any personal or professional commitments that hinders you to keep on learning nowadays, but you want to continue 5 days or weeks or months later, it really doesn't matter. Once you register, we give you the exam access code. It's valid for 365 days, but this validity can be even further extended. If you simply send us an email, we extend this validity. So second question, after my registration, how long am I allowed to wait before I access my exam? As I said, 365 days and can be extended. And how do I prepare for the examination of my program? How long do I have to train? So how long do I have to train is a subjective question. There are people, you know, who eagerly consumes all of our training materials in a few days and then be ready to do their exams. Or there are people who are basically heavily experienced in the Scrum framework and they can do your exam without any training at all. Or there are people, you know, who prefer, you know, studying on their own pace and takes, you know, weeks or months. It really doesn't matter. You know, the answer is up to you. You can take as much as your time. And how do I prepare for your program? We give you basically our audiobook, and we give you also training book, and we give you also the access of our training portal, so you can basically study your exam at your own pace on your own time. And how can I reimburse my program fee from my employer? So after your registration, we give you a payment confirmation receipt or invoice if you want to. And then with this receipt or invoice, you can basically reimburse your certification fee from your employer. Or if you are self-employed, you can use this invoice to basically deduct your expenses from your tax debt. How many times can I retake my exam? Do I have to pay again if I fail? As I said, you can take your exam up to 10 times and you don't have to pay again. It's free. You know, trying the exams again is for free. Oops, sorry. So is my exam an open exam book? Is my exam an open book exam? Yes, it's an open book exam. Why? Because life is an open book exam. You know, we don't basically solve our problems in life with all, you know, libraries and books and internet, you know, shut down. We do exams, you know, online with open books, and therefore in your exam there is no reason that it should be different. Therefore, exam is also open book exam. My English is not so good. Can I still learn Scrum and get certified? Yes, we have, you know, students who are basically not so proficient in Scrum framework exam as well, so they can basically quite easily consume our material and pass their Scrum certifications too. And you can also use, by the way, Google Translator plugin if you want to have real-time translation while you do the exam. I've never tested our certification registration page in different languages. They may not work if you use a translator to register. But after you register, I know as a fact that some of our training, authorized training partners do this. They do their trainings by using the Google Translator plugin, and then they can do the exam in any language they prefer if you have difficulties or issues with English language. After I pass my exam, how long will my credential be valid? It's lifetime valid. You never will need to have any exam renewal or certification renewal fee. What if I have any questions or support requests during my training and exam process? So we'll be here 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. We'll be helping, we'll be answering all questions and support requests in about 12 hours, all of them. So we'll be helping you on your journey all the time. So here is a special offer. So the question is, what are the promo codes? So the promo codes are not as usual. So here are today's special offers for the live event participants. As I said, this offer only goes to the live event participants. So Scrum Master certification list price 69. Now we are offering for 47 francs, dollars. And Scrum Product Owner price $99 list price, and they offer this for $69. And Scaled Scrum Expert certification list price $149, and we offer this for $99. And Agile Scrum Leadership Accredited Certification, the list price is $249, and we offer this for $149. And Scrum Trainer Certification, the list price $199, but today's price is $150. And Scrum Coach or Agile Coach Certification, the list price $199, and we offer this for $150. And Certified Kanban Expert Certification, the list price $99, and we offer this for $84. And Certified Kanban Project Manager Certification, the list price $199, and today's price is $149. So how do I get this offer? So basically, before I come to this, I also want to mention you about the bonuses that you are going to give with all these programs. So we believe in this program so much, and I really believe that they will help you quite a lot. And I also want to make sure that you learn Scrum and Kanban very well. And therefore, we are going to give you a number of bonuses with the certification programs. Bonus number 1, our book, the Scrum Framework audiobook. So the list price value normally $97. Bonus number 2, the Kanban Framework audiobook. So it's $67 list price value. And the bonus number 3, Scrum Framework ebook. So it's $50 value. And bonus number 4, Kanban Framework, 67 pages, $30 value, and monthly live QA session exclusively for only registered users for $299. So these bonuses, we are not going to charge them $543 because these are coming to you totally free of charge. So how are we continuing then? So how to get started? So these are, by the way, visual representation of such an offer. And in order to get this offer, what you need to do is you go to the scruminstitute.org/go, and from that link you can see. You don't need to use, by the way, any. I'm also trying to copy and paste the link for you to the chat console. If I can identify the link, just give me a second. Yes, an email will be also sent, Rosa, but here also I also typed it for you. And also after we conclude the session, you'll be diverted to a page where you can see this offer in real time. So this page will enable you to get these programs in this amazing prices. Again, the Scrum training and certification programs are available on our web portal for higher prices, but right now, here is a chance as this event participant to get your Scrum certifications with major discounts, and plus you get 5 bonuses which are worth about $543 completely for free. And we'll take the offer codes, promo codes offline at the end of today. So Basically, this is the offer again. These are all the bonuses. Bonus number 1, Scrum Framework audiobook. Bonus number 2, Kanban Framework audiobook. Bonus number 3, Scrum Framework ebook. Bonus number 4, Kanban Framework book. And bonus number 5, monthly live Q&A sessions like that to offer all of those questions to coach you all the time with all your requirements and demands. And here, a visual representation of the offers. Again, you see the list prices in one place and the offers we give for each of them. By the way, if you choose to receive multiple programs, okay, let's say if you want to get Scrum Master, Scrum Product Owner, Skate Scrum Expert, and Agile Scrum Leadership Program, these 4 of them in one go, the page will enable you to register multiple of them in one place. Do you want me to make a demonstration quickly how this works, or is it self-explanatory? As I mentioned to you before, by choosing multiple programs, you can get multiple of them in one go. Do you want me to do a demonstration? Okay, someone asked. I do it then. Let me try to share my screen. Okay. Can someone confirm, please, if you can see my screen? Okay. So this is the registration page that I just shared with you. So here you see the list price of each product, and then you also see the discounted prices for today. So the idea is, if you want to, let's say, register one single program, as an example, Scrum Product Owner. So I choose this. So the screen tells me, pro tip, register multiple programs, don't miss surprise discount. So the more programs you register, the more you save with the promo codes we set it for you. So this is basically just a recommendation, okay? You don't have to do this. You don't have to do this to get any promotion, because you get the promotion no matter what. So here, let's say in this example, I wanted to register only Scrum Product Owner certification, and then as you see, the screen already set me the program with its reduced price, which is Scrum Product Owner 69. Or let's say I want to get the Scrum Master certification, so now I choose on Scrum Master, and then as you see, the screen showed me only 47. So register certification for $47. So this is how much you need to pay. And yet, let's say if I want to get 2 of them, okay, I want to get Scrum Master plus Scrum Product Owner. Now I choose on 2 of them, okay? By the way, there was a message that I didn't read. Let me read it. So now I've chosen only one here, and the second one, let's see what the message says. Congratulations, we just set your promo code for 2 programs, so you are going to save $10 immediately today. Pro tip, the more programs you register, the more you save with the promo codes we set for you. Let's see what's happened. So Scrum Master certification, the discounted price was 37. And Scrum Product Owner, the discounted price was 69. So the total would make basically 116, right? But as you choose multiple programs, we have also given you multiple programs discount, additional $10 reduction, and then the total price have come to you 106. Let's choose another one, let's say. Also on the top of this package, let's say I want to add Scale Scrum Expert. The list price used to be 149, but today it's 99. I've chosen this one. As you see, this also added my shopping basket here. Scaled Scrum Expert, the discounted price were added, and then the discounted price, the sum of discounted price of these 3 programs made 215. But then here I'm getting an additional bonus. You know, I used to get only $10 discount when I choose one program, but when I choose 2 programs in Mango, now I'm getting one extra $10 discount, so total $20 discount, and then the total price came 195. So this is a small demonstration. The rest of the form is self-explanatory. You enter your email, first name, last name, your country, company name. You can leave it empty if you don't want to. It may be important if you want to reimburse your certification from tax authorities or from your employer, but you can leave it empty. So you enter your address and postcode, and then the payment info. You can pay either PayPal or Visa. It's or Visa, MasterCard, or American Express. It's totally up to you. So this is the idea of that presentation. Let me come back to the slides. I'm so big. Let's go back to the deck. Ooh, it's here, okay. So, this is the offer. Adil, thank you much. Thank you a lot. So I've seen a lot of thank you messages from you. It was really a great pleasure for me. I have one more remark. Thank you very much, Jane. Beside this offer, I have one question to you, to the participants, because I know that really hardcore Scrum people are in this session today. Are some of you interested in becoming Scrum trainers? You know, our authorized training partners, and then we are going to help you to basically market your products, to build your own web page, to train people, to resell our programs. Are there people among you to join us to resell our programs? So I will personally coach you, by the way, to accomplish this. Okay, it's good to know. It's great, perfect, nice to hear. I was really expecting. Of course, you never know what you will hear from your audience, but I was kind of expecting to see some yeses. But that's perfect. That's perfect. Please send me an email afterwards. I will schedule another call. I don't know when, but I will try to do it as quick as I can in a couple of weeks or so, with you guys who may be interested, to learn from me how to market and how to basically train our programs in your own communities with live classes or with physical classes. Became now difficult because of Corona story, but it can become again popular in some time. That's perfect. Yeah, for the ones who are interested, please send me an email. Please reply one of the webinar confirmations, and then mention that we talked about this and you are interested. I will add you. I will add your info to a notepad or somewhere to contact you later about. As I said, don't expect to hear me today or tomorrow. It will take me a couple of weeks to make my mind how to position this, how I can make sure that I help you best, because there is a whole internet marketing story on all this training and coaching business. Okay, it's not only the subject matter expertise that we are talking today, and without knowing all this concepts, then you have no chance to be successful as a Scrum trainer or Scrum coach. And my goal is basically for the ones who are really interested in investing in the subject. I'm going to personally coach you in such sessions. And here is also one way to basically also join this group is if you're also interested to become a trainer or coach, please also consider by getting our trainer or coach programs, because this is also part of the journey to become our authorized training partner. You also need to consider getting one of or both of these programs, and you can also consider getting them by basically using this special offer today, ladies and gentlemen, from the scruminstitute.org/go. And some people are asking further discounts because they did register in the past. If you send us a support email, Krishna, we can basically see what kind of an offer we can do for you to compensate the additional payment that you have done because of the past registration. We will look into this, Krishna. I can't tell you anything at the moment, but please send an email and we will make sure we will make you happy about this. So that's all. As I said, please try to use this offer today. The offer page will go offline tomorrow, and then for trainers and coaches, please also give special attention to our trainer or coach programs, because these are the good prices that we give, because these programs will enable you to earn money, okay, as a trainer and coach. And this price is basically pennies and nothing compared to income that you can generate yourself in the future by being an established trainer or coach in your own industry, in your own community. So 150 that you would pay for this program are really nothing. And as I said, please inform me with a informal email that you're interested to join our group of trainers, and then I will get in touch with you in some days, and we'll talk about the details later. So that's all. I talk quite a lot on a Sunday. Normally Sundays are my easy days. I spend reading and a little bit walking, but today was a little bit talkative day for me. But that's also fine. I think it was worth the time. So I'm concluding now. Thank you. I'm really happy to hear the feedback. Thank you very much, Alex, and thank you very much for everyone else who stayed here so long. Great. Now I'm closing the session, so you'll be redirected. Thank you very much for Mohammed. Thank you very much for all. Thanks. Feedback. Now I'm closing the session. After I close it, you'll be redirected to the scruminstitute.org/go page. So please ensure you profit from this great session. I will be happy if you will also leave a review somewhere on LinkedIn or Facebook on our homepage. I would be happy to see your review. Please tag my name on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on Twitter, so I will make sure I will read all of them and say thank you as well. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Have a nice day. I'm closing the session if I can find the place of the button. Thank you.